This podcast may contain disturbing content for some listeners. It's intended for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised. This is True Crime XS.
I miss the times when I could talk about stuff in real time, because when we were doing the first couple of seasons, I did a lot of stuff in, I put that in quotes, real time. I could do true crime news as I was talking, but as we've started recording more and more stuff, it's become more difficult for me to do real time stuff. But there's a lot happening right now in sort of true crime news. And I figured there were two pieces that they worked into other seasons, and we talked about them in other episodes, that we probably need to talk about them. The first one is the Long Island serial killer. And the second one is a South Carolina case from a long time ago that I worked into the Israel Keys season. A couple things. I will say, Lincoln Lawyer on Netflix. We're not paid to endorse this, but you should go watch it if you're a fan of crime stuff. I'm really enjoying what they're doing there. And the second thing was, I realized since we're moving to, so much stuff is out of order. We're moving to a creator network. I need a catchphrase. And I figured, Bob Barker used to say, have your pet spayed or neutered. I'll take it a step further and say, if you are in the frame of mind that you're going to get a rescue dog, which, if I recall correctly, you have at least 3 rescues, right?
I have 4 rescue dogs.
They're all 4 rescues. Okay. I didn't know about the first one in the group, but I thought the other 3 were.
All 4 of them came from the same rescue. In fact, I'm such a good rescuer of dogs that I was asked to take the 4th special needs dog.
And this is the dog you can't touch, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we're coming up on a year with her.
So I have dogs, and I would say rescue a dog, adopt a dog, and don't ever send it back. I have at least one of those. But I would take it a step further and say 2 of my dogs are Rottweilers. I would say if you see a Rottweiler, particularly a younger one, or one that a 501c3 rescue has gotten a hold of, get a Rottweiler. I love having them. I have 2 girl Rottweilers, and they are definitely a huge addition to my world. So if we're going to be on a creator network and have a catchphrase and stuff, I would say adopt animals, but please, please, please consider Rottweilers. This is a weekend episode that we're recording. So we've recorded a lot of other stuff. We've recorded some episodes that'll come out over the next month or so. And in one segment, we're interviewing an author. We're doing some work on a serial killer, and those won't come out right away. They'll be in the summer. We're researching a serial killer that we have done a lot of work on. Then on top of that, this is we're sort of changing the format of the show so we can have a little bit more true crime talk show going. We're doing some episodes that you and I are covering a lot of missing people and sort of unsolved murders, or some solved murders that have questions. But this episode here is a weekend episode where we're recording, first of all, the Long Island serial killer case. We're just going to talk about that a little bit, and then I'm going to play a big chunk of the press audio that came out this week, which is a huge deal because it's 12 years old.
I was so surprised.
I was shocked when it came out, and I knew it was supposed to come out. I sort of already had my I don't know, suspicions about that case. I don't know what you want to call it. There's this Eastbound Strangler case that happens in New Jersey, and then there's this Long Island serial killer case. And I've never thought this was a serial killer, at least not in the traditional sense. There's a lot of weird things that come with this case, and I wanted to get your opinion on it and give you mine on recording so that we could put it out with a press release. What do you think happened with like the Long Island serial killer?
Well, it's really interesting because I get a few situations mixed up, I think. They referred during the press conference to the Gilgo Beach murders, I think. Is that what he
They
called
call them
them?
the Gilgo Beach Four. So Shannon Gilbert goes missing, and then they have this whole Gilgo Beach Four
It was
because they
basically like
find them
everybody's
looking
worst
for her.
nightmare.
It
Yeah.
really is, yeah.
They start looking for her, and then instead they uncover four bodies that aren't her, right?
Yeah, that's what happens. And Unraveled, which is another true crime podcast I listen to sporadically, they have shorter seasons. They do a whole like deep dive into the Long Island serial killer and the Gilgo Beach. So you can find a lot of details there. But just the gist of it is they found over two periods of time, specifically after Shannon Gilbert goes missing, who was the person in the 911 call I'm going to play. They find these girls who are basically escorts that they've never really figured out what happened to them. And I have a theory about it, but I really wanted to hear sort of what you thought on it because you and I have talked about this multiple times over the years. It came up during the Israel Keys season. It came up sort of sporadically as they sort of dribble out information to us there from Suffolk County in New York. Did you think this was a serial killer?
No, I never thought it was a serial killer. But I do think I've got a couple of situations mixed up in my head, possibly. Especially, is it just the four victims and then Shannon Gilbert?
Well, no, it's so that's where it gets weird. The Long Island, do you want me to explain this here or like how do you want me to do this?
It's up to you. I have some thoughts about it, but I can't. I know that you actually refer to it like in acronym form, and you always have. And then I realized
I've been
uh,
deep in this case. This is one of those that like I dug into a long time ago. The Long Island serial killer, or as I call the police case, the LISK, it takes place from 1999 to 2010. Ultimately, Shannon Gilbert's disappearance is what sort of sets everything in motion. She makes a 911 call. And when she makes that 911 call, it reveals what's called the Gilgo 4 or the Gilgo Beach 4, which is a series of Craigslist victims. And then in March and April 2011, there's another series of victims that are uncovered because there's some diligent work being done by tracking dogs. And then they finally, in December of 2011, they find Shannon Gilbert's body. They've been very hush hush in this area. There's the police person of interest. There's multiple suspects. There's multiple victims. There's somewhere between 10 and 20 victims, and the way that they're found and discovered is very unusual. And I've followed it with pretty rapt interest the whole time that it's been going on. There's been some corruption in the local police department and a lot of civil actions that have gone on. But ultimately, I personally have a theory on this case, and I don't think it's the same as like what's going on. They've even shut the FBI out of it at one point. But I wanted to know of those 10 to say 18 or 20 victims, because this is one of those cases I sort of drag you into. So I didn't know, what you thought of it, like ultimately, or what you wanted to tell people you thought of it. I figured I'd start here.
well, I haven't done a really. I mean, I've followed it and I've looked into it some, but it's not like one of the cases I took on because for a while there it was like mainstream, big deal. Now, interestingly enough, one of the most fascinating things that sort of led me to this case was the fact that Shannon Gilbert's sister ended up killing her mother.
Yeah, we talked about this I think it made an episode like early on, sort of like in the transition, but
Well, that was one of the craziest things to me. And so that is actually the first thing I remember about Shannon Gilbert's case. So that tells you about, that was probably in like 16, 15 or 16. But that's what, so because, it's weird. It's a weird situation that it came out that her sister had killed her mother. And I think she had stabbed her over like a couple hundred times. It was crazy. But anyway, because of that, that kind of led me down a path. I did see where everything that unfolded, which was basically that uh, she had been driven to a job and it was at I can't tell if it's a prestigious area or not. I can't really tell, but she had a driver who was her, pseudo security, I guess, because
yeah.
he was there to make sure she was safe. And at some point, she freaked out. And I think that it was widely assumed that it had something to do with some sort of drug use, whether, purposefully or not purposefully. And she ran off. And in running off, she had come into contact with different people, right? And
Yeah,
then
there
she
was
was
the driver, there was a main John or customer, and then there was some 911 calls she had made to when she was like, she made one, and then there were people that made one because she was knocking at the door.
right. And then suddenly the guy that was chasing her, which was actually her driver, was gone in the vehicle. And so it slowed efforts down to find her because they weren't sure if like whoever had been banging on the doors had just been driven off, right? It got really confusing for everybody. The 911 call had been a huge point of contention because they hadn't released it. But there was information that there was this like really long 911 call. And today they released it. Not, I mean, they did release it in full. I only listened to what was played during the press conference. I haven't gone to listen to the whole thing, but I imagine a lot of what they cut out is probably just like noise or, just in between times. Because when something's being recorded live, there's lag time where people aren't talking, right? And you can kind of tell just from what you heard on the press conference, like nobody knew what to do. I don't know if you picked up on that, but like the 911 operator didn't know what to do. Shannon didn't know what to do. And then you have to kind of keep that in mind that this is 13 years later. Is it 13 or 12? 12 years later. And so it's 12 years later, and we know that this is her last communication, right? We know what's going to happen to her because she was found. Before hearing the 911 call, it didn't shock, nothing about the 911 call shocked me. It's actually exactly what I expected. And it's really strange to me that they waited so long to release it. I can't figure out like what the thinking behind that was. I have no idea what difference it would have made had they released it immediately. I do feel like something was going on with her, and she's frightened and she feels like someone's after her, and you can sort of tell that, but it's a very subdued sort of frightened and somebody's after her. And I don't know why she ended up in the state she was in, but I have a feeling like she just got out into the marsh and she got turned around, and then, for whatever reason, I don't know if she laid down and went to sleep or she passed out or what. And, she succumbed to everything that was happening.
Well, I'm going to play that now, and it's long, but I'm playing it because I think people need to hear it, and then you and I are going to come back and we're going to talk about it. So I'm going to drop that in right here.
How can I assist you? Hello? Hello? Hello, you dialed into the 911 system. How can I assist you? Hello?
Yeah.
Do you need the police?
Yeah.
Where? Where? Who's there with you? Hello? What's going on?
Well, there's somebody after me.
What?
Somebody after me.
Somebody is harassing you?
After me.
Who?
Can you trace where I am?
Driver's house there. Driver's right there.
Let me talk to him.
Can you trace where I am?
Let me talk to him.
I'm by the Jones Beach.
You're at Jones Beach?
By the Jones Beach.
All right, let me connect you to state police. Stay on the line.
Why? Why?
You got to talk louder to them.
Why? Why?
State Police, Trooper Fry. State Police.
Yeah, there's somebody after me.
I'm sorry?
There's somebody after me.
Where are you?
There's somebody after me.
Okay, where are you?
There's somebody after me.
Where are you, ma'am?
I don't know.
You're driving right now?
No, I'm inside the house.
I'm sorry?
I'm inside the house.
What house?
I don't know. Can you trace where I am?
I'm sorry?
Can you trace where I am?
No, I can't. What's your callback number you're calling from?
Huh?
What phone number are you calling from?
Somebody's after me. Please.
Are you in Suffolk County or Nassau County?
I'm in Long Island.
Where on Long Island are you?
Okay, what's up? What's up?
No.
Yeah, what's up?
No. No. No, stop, no.
Where in Long Island are you? In Suffolk County? Nassau County?
Huh? Why? Why you call me by my name? Why?
County, you on the line?
Stop. Please. Stop it, please. Please stop. Please. Can you shut the door?
No, time to go.
Please.
You okay?
Please.
Please, go.
Please.
Go that way, please. Come on, let's go. Come on, we're all going outside. Come on, go outside. Come on, all of us. Come on, we're all going outside. Come on.
No, please.
Come on. Come on. Please, come on.
Please.
Come on.
Why?
Just come out here.
Why?
County, are you on the line?
Hurry up, I want to show you something.
Why?
I want to show you this. Please come on. Please.
Why? Why are you guys doing this to me? Doing this.
What county are you in, ma'am?
Doing this. Why are you calling me by my name? Please.
Give me here.
No, please.
Give me here.
No.
Please.
No, stop it, please. Stop it, please. Please, stop it.
No.
Please, stop it. No, please. Stop it. Please, stop it. No.
Let me fix that. Please.
Please, stop it. No, please, stop it, please. Please, stop it. Please. No, what are you going to do to me? What are you going to do to me? Stop it.
Please, get him out of here. What do you want to call
No, no.
I'll go upstairs. I'll go upstairs. You leave. I'm going to go upstairs. Look, I'm going to go upstairs. You leave. I'm going to go upstairs. Okay? You leave, please. Please, get your take care. My hold. What's the matter? Are you okay?
What are you gonna do?
Wait a little slower, eh?
What are you gonna do to me?
She's in my house on my
Why?
Huh? Well, I don't know, but it was transferred to me.
Why?
No,
What are you gonna kill me?
it's running through, I think it's just a county on the number transferred to me. The county won't answer.
Kill me? Why are you gonna kill me?
Call Suffolk number.
You freaking mad? Come on.
I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Let's go back to Manhattan, alright? We're in Long Island. We're out near the water.
Please stop.
Me, Mike. Brother, come on.
No, stop it, please.
Oh, okay, fine.
Please take my time to what, to dive?
Yeah, I'm around near the water. And
Guys?
I was saying, let's go
I didn't do anything.
631. 511.
Why? Mike, you close that?
Some guy named Mike too.
Mike, why? Why?
Come on.
Why? Why, Mike? For fun? For me? I'm never gonna enjoy it again. Why? I never do. I never did. Mike, please. Mike, please. Please.
Good, come on.
Please.
So there's something I don't know what phone she's calling from, but I transferred her back. And where's where she's coming from? She needs help.
You're like, I'm going to find my way home.
There's a child in the house with a female. And the female was the initial caller.
So this is all set up?
You set everything up? I waited for you. You told me you're going to find your way home, so I was like, what? You know, nothing that I
So this is all set up?
You never did this before. Well, you're joking with me, right?
Why?
I don't know. Why are you doing that?
All right, I'll say I was lying. I was lying.
You did?
Why?
But it's a 631 number.
Why?
You can try talking to her, but she's not.
Please.
I think she's got the phone down.
Please. Hello? Please.
Hello.
Please.
What's the matter? What happened? Hello.
Please, get me out of here, Lee.
Hello.
You're being sarcastic about this. You were part of this all along.
I just met him just now. I called you after. I called his number.
Mike, please. I'm begging you. I just want to go home.
Go home,
Why?
Well, we can give them.
What's this one? Is this us?
573-9308.
Is that us?
What's going on?
That's the number.
What? Yeah.
Extension answering. That's the number it came in.
Why are you sitting there knocking about the husband? Something's gonna happen to me.
There's nobody outside.
Yeah, you could call it,
You okay, right?
but we're not going to know where it is.
Little.
County should call it.
No, isn't that the county phone number?
Please.
Every time county number when transfer something over.
Okay, okay.
511 thing.
Get out of here. Listen to the phone.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Hot Suffolk? It's got to be Suffolk, right? Hello?
Stop it. Stop it, Mike.
Hello, where are you?
Huh?
In the house on Long Island.
Where are you?
What's going on
What's her
there?
name?
What's your name?
Where's the bathroom? I'll see it.
What's your name?
Shannon Gilbert.
God, we call.
What's your name?
Shannon Gilbert.
Where are you?
I'm in Long Island.
And Mike is there. Some kind of a
And what's wrong?
Huh?
What happened?
These people are plotting to kill me.
Where are you? What's your address? What's your address? What's your address?
No, Mike, stop, Mike, here. Mike, stop. Mike, stop, Mike. Mike, stop it.
Where are you?
Mike, stop it. Mike, stop it.
What's your name, Shannon?
Huh? Mike, stop. Come here.
Where are you? What's your address? Hello?
You want me to call the police?
Yeah, hold on, and then I know you're telling the truth. The address.
What are we going to tell them?
Tell them something. Mike, stop it. You guys are plotting something. Mike.
Where are you?
Mike.
We're fine, then why are we all...
Are you in the house?
Yeah. Mike, stop it.
What town are you in?
In Long Island, Mike, it's...
Where?
Stop, Mike.
Where in Long Island?
Stop it, Mike. Mike, stop it. Mike, stop it.
Where in Long Island are you?
I don't know.
Hello?
You're gonna kill me.
Where in Long Island are you?
I don't know. They're gonna kill me.
Are you in a house? Are you in a house?
Yeah.
Whose house is it?
I don't know.
Who is Mike? What's his last name?
I don't know. He's playing.
Mike what?
He's playing. History school.
How old are you? What's his last name? What's his last name? What's his last name? Shannon. 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 Shannon.
Yeah.
What town are you in? Hello? What's Mike's last name? Hello?
You're gonna kill me, Rachel. One of the guys said, let's go back to my place.
Where are you?
Farmingdale in service.
Where are you, Shannon? Shannon. Shannon.
1034.
1034, 963, Gray, 46.
Shannon. She's not talking.
I want to put her to the phone.
You do?
I put this number back in. Is that the number she's calling from?
I think that's her number. 9308 is one of our extensions, I think. Oh, did you call that one?
Shannon? Hello?
There's the shield on the car.
1955.
Shannon?
I wonder if she has a phone in her pocket.
Shannon. Shannon. Shannon.
What's the matter? Somebody here too? Huh?
Hello? Hello?
Don't keep yourself hurt. Where are you going? Wait a minute. Where are you going? Where are you going?
Something like Dopert, D-O-P-E-R-T. Hello? She didn't spell it, but that's what it sounded like.
You know what the back and forth has been on this over the years is it a serial killer, is it multiple killers? And like I said, Unraveled, the podcast, has a season on this, and they talk about this guy John Burke, who's, you know, he's a police chief there. They outline pretty carefully what could have happened here. The FBI gets shut out because he's, you know, with the police. But this is my opinion on this, and I know we've talked about this and we don't necessarily completely agree, but this is my take on what happened here. And, you know, as far as Sarah Gilbert, who is the sister, and Mary Gilbert, who is
I think it's Mari.
Mari.
Yeah, I think so.
At some point, we may talk a little bit more about that case. That's a different thing. And we are, you know, I am veering towards talking to some victims and some tangential people related to some crimes that I've been trying to cover. But with them, that's a different thing. This is my opinion on the Long Island serial killer case. And, you know, it's not going to be a super popular opinion. They call this like, LISK, or the Long Island serial killer. They also reference it as like the Gilgo Beach killer or the Craigslist Ripper. Here's my thing with this case. And I know that's like a long call to listen to. When I listen to it, I think we're listening to the last moments of Shannan Gilbert's life. Maybe not immediately, like she may die shortly thereafter. I felt like she had encountered a situation where she'd been drugged. Now, there's a lot of things I could buy here. I could buy that she was incapacitated, or that she ran into a situation that scared her, or that she was freaking out over something. And, you know, I could even buy like a mental health crisis. But the truth is, I hear her talking there, and I think that even if she succumbed to the elements, I think these guys are responsible, because I'm hearing like sort of, you know, I'm married to a Jersey girl. I'm hearing a Jersey girl who has, for some reason or another, taken this job, taken this client, taken this John, and gotten herself into a situation that, for whatever reason, she recognizes is not going well. And when I hear that, and I hear, like, it's crazy to hear the 911 call where they're like, you can hear in the background, although the quality is not great, they're trying to figure out what to do with this girl. So when I hear that, I honestly think that the driver's involved. I think that the possibly the John is involved, and this is what I'm picturing. The Gilgo Beach Four were all Craigslist workers in the sex trade industry. I think the Gilgo Beach Four they've run into a situation where somebody has called them out of the blue and offered them an inordinate amount of money. And I think what happens there is they go and they take this job for whatever financial straits they're in or whatever substance abuse they have going on. I think they take these jobs, and I think that it's a setup. I don't know if the driver's in on it. I get the feeling from this call that he's at least in on this one, but that's for I don't know what agency could even figure this out at this point, because the cops at the time were not paying attention to this. I don't know. Like, Unraveled gives you the impression that maybe they were in on it. The FBI is definitely shut out of this, so I don't know how to articulate like what I'm feeling about the police involvement here. But this is what I'll say. I think what's happening is these girls, because there's 5 of them that are lured from Craigslist, and whether Shannon Gilbert is a victim of this Craigslist Ripper or LISK or whatever, it's sort of irrelevant, because you could very well be right. She could have accidentally drowned. She could have succumbed to the elements. There's so many things that could have happened to her. But it's coincidental that within a quarter of a mile, these 5 girls are all found. They're all Craigslist escorts. So what I picture is like a person trying to convert independent sex workers to more of a pimp situation where they're earning off of them, and they're dragging these girls out here, drugging these girls up, and converting them to be part of their business. And the ones that we find are the ones who are not willing to be a part of it. So that's how we have all these people at Gilgo Beach, and she says Jones Beach in the 911 call. That's how we have the Long Island serial killer victim. That's my opinion.
Well, and that could be possible. I feel differently about what I hear happening in the background. I can't really distinguish a whole lot of what's being said. And, they're not on the phone, and she's barely on the phone, honestly. But it seems to me like so I figured that this guy wanted something that this girl wasn't, that Shannon wasn't interested in doing. And she got really offended by it. And I feel like once she was offended, he was offended. The whole situation was done. He wanted her to leave because she was flipping out on him or whatever. And she does say, you were in on it this whole time or something like that to the driver. And to me, it sounds like he's like going, what are you talking about? Because like, let's just get out of here. This is so awkward now because, the driver, I assume, never probably has to go inside, right? And he's been beckoned inside by this customer, right? That's what I'm imagining is happening here. And once he gets inside, he's going, yeah, let's get out of here. This guy's asking us to leave. Come on, let's go. I do think I imagine that it's a big step for somebody that is like an out-call
sex worker.
I guess. I mean, is that what you would say?
Sex worker. She's providing out-call services for sex work.
Okay, and so I feel like it is a big deal for somebody that's doing that to call 911. Right?
I totally agree. Yeah.
Okay, and so having done that, I don't know if they knew she was on the phone with 911. I kind of think they do, and I think that's probably why the driver decided to go ahead and leave. Right? He's a terrible security person, by the way. I'm just saying, he completely defeated the purpose of everything he was supposed to be doing, right?
Well, that's what makes me think that he's in on it a little bit. Maybe not all of them, but he's in on this.
I think he got scared and he left because he's like, the paycheck I'm getting for this is not worth what's about to happen. Like, because he's thinking the police are coming, right? And then as she's running down the street, banging on more and more doors, the weird thing to me was the first door she went to, the guy was very kind. He makes it clear to the 911 operator that he thinks that there's a 14-year-old girl running down the street.
Yeah.
Okay, so he thinks it's a child. Now she's not 14. She's a grown woman. So why doesn't she get the help she needs there?
Because the people are close behind her. That's the driver and the John that set it all up.
I don't know that the John is chasing her.
I don't think he's chasing her. I think he's having the other guy chase her. I told you when I heard it, and I knew this was going to be how it went when I finally heard the 911 call. She sounds like she's been roofied or shot up. That's exactly what she sounds like.
I would say that that's probably pretty accurate. I mean, something's wrong with her. She's not, all she keeps saying is like, I need help, please.
She says they're after me, they're chasing me, they're going to kill me. This is what tipped me off, though. This is where my whole theory rests. He calls her by her name. He says Sharon. In the 911 call, it's like you can barely hear it, but she responds to it and she says, "Why did you call me by my name?" Because she has a name she uses in the ads. She's also a Craigslist sex worker. So
that was the driver, right?
Correct, but that's not something that you do. And she would have they have a rapport here in this call, as quick as it is. That is something she told him never to do. And this guy did it. He called her Shannon.
Right. And I see, to me, what that said to me was that you're right. They have, what they do as far as not calling her by her name to maintain some, at least, confidentiality, if not anonymity. But I have a feeling that they had gone way off script, because he's got a John beckoning him to come in and get this chick because she's lost her mind, right? And he had to, he called her by her name because I feel like he was put out as well. Now, I know it sounds like I'm playing devil's advocate, but I have a really hard time. So here's what the problem is for me. If they're going to take her to be part of, the sex ring, so they can basically, the only reason for that to happen is for them to get a cut of profits, right? That's why that would occur, right? Because now they've got merchandise they can farm out, so to speak. It's very disgusting. But how does she have her cell phone?
They didn't get so this is my theory there. They shot her up with enough to knock her out, and it didn't have the same effect that it normally would. Whatever it is, whatever drug they're using here, whether it's like a ketamine or whatever is going on with her, they don't quite get the results they planned on. And that's why he calls her by her name, is trying, like, he thinks it's over for her. I don't think they realize she's on the phone. My guess is it's either a second phone or she secreted the phone into what's going on. There's never a moment where a driver for a sex worker should be coming into the house and blaming the sex worker for anything ever under any circumstances would they have this kind of rapport.
I don't think he's blaming her for anything.
He totally is. He says she's freaking out. The driver says it and the John says it on the 911 call.
So what should he have done? Because it sounds to me like all he's trying to do is de-escalate the situation.
Nah, he's not saying she's freaking out like, help me here. He's saying she's freaking out. Now what do we do? Because her plan didn't work. That's what he's saying.
I don't hear that. I hear him telling her to come on. We've got to get out of here, because
she messes with him. She gets her shit together just enough to call him by his first name. The reason we haven't called the serial killer or the serial killers, if you think it's a couple of different people, is because I don't think this is serial killings. I think this is human trafficking at its very worst.
They cleared the driver, right?
Nope.
They didn't clear him?
They didn't clear him or include him. He's just there. They thought because he was semi-cooperative. See, I'm not so sure what his role is in this. I think
Yeah, but it does matter though, because if she had the
Oh, yeah.
opportunity for him to drive her out of there, no harm, no foul, whatever was occurring.
Why didn't he do it then?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I hear him trying to make that happen, and I hear her resisting it, and I don't know what's happening.
I think it has to be drug related, and I would go as far as to say it has to be injection related.
Well, and I mean, because he basically says like, it's so, the whole situation is so crazy because the guy is being, the guy being the John, the customer, he's being very firm and saying, now I would like for you to leave, please. Like, it's so bizarre the way that they're talking. Because he's essentially kicking her out of his house and she won't leave. And then the driver is essentially trying to get her to leave because he's not used to having to deal with, like, I imagine all he ever does is drop them off and sit there and wait for them to come back out. That's what I imagine happens.
That's how it should go, yeah.
And so the fact that he is now inside of the house saying, you know, what the heck? Come on, let's go. And I feel like it was just, I think he was blindsided. And I think that's why he called her by her name. And I think that it's odd that I hear paranoia. Okay.
Oh, totally agree.
And so to me, like, if she is paranoid about getting in the car with the person that she hired for her to come out there with, right? If she's paranoid about getting back in the vehicle with him, like, it is possible that there was really nothing going on.
I would say under all circumstances on the planet but one, you're completely correct. And you know what the circumstance that you're not correct under?
Well, when there's all these bodies found.
Yep. When the search for her within a quarter mile reveals 4 more bodies of girls who were also escorts in the same capacity.
Let me tell you why that's also different. She was the only one that was being looked for.
She was. She was the only one that was being looked for. She was. But
and to me, that makes a big difference.
Yeah, I'm telling you, there's more to this if you start looking at. Look, I mean, how likely is it that within a quarter mile you have someone that's even seeing 5 Craigslist sex workers on a regular basis, let alone that their bodies are found there?
Well, right. No, I'm not saying that. So I don't think it's a serial killer. If it is, it's a really horrifying one because it's somebody who actually has his victims dropped off at his house.
It's wild, isn't it?
Well, and that's why I was wondering, like, is this an affluent area?
It's sort of. There's like doctors and lawyers out there. Like,
and how big of
it's an expensive area.
How big of a span of land are we talking about?
It's less than a quarter mile where the bodies are all found.
Okay,
this is Long Island, so.
I believe there were 11 sets of remains recovered. That's what sticks out in my mind. And I think some of them, it was a little bit unclear, like how many exactly people they were looking at. Okay. And so is that the most like bodies per square inch recovered randomly like this? I'm not talking about like mass disasters or anything.
No. Like if we go to like Gacy, it's like Gacy level.
That's not what I mean though. What I mean is like
unrelated.
I don't know. Well, this land, the way that it's laid out, it would be like if you're looking at a neighborhood and to know like this, you know, pretty normal neighborhood had 11 bodies in it.
Yeah. So this would be the equivalent of 10 bodies being found on, I don't know if you'll like recognize this spatially, but like on my land where I live, there would be 10 bodies found there.
It's crazy.
So we have Maureen Brainerd Barnes. She went missing July 9th, 2007, give or take. She was from Connecticut. She went missing saying she was going to spend the day in New York. We have Melissa Bartholomew. She went missing from Erie County, New York, but had been living in the Bronx and working as an escort through Craigslist on July 10th, 2009. We have Megan Waterman. She's from Maine. She went missing June 6, 2010, also working, doing sex work through Craigslist. We have Amberlynn Costello. She went missing September 2nd, 2010 from West Babylon, New York, which that town is the closest of all of them. It's about 10 miles north of where they were found. Then we have Jessica Taylor. She went missing July 21st, 2003. Now, she's one of the ones that's found in two places. She had worked Washington, D.C. and Manhattan as a sex worker. But so July 26, 2003, her torso is found. Her remains are found March 29, 2011, which is 8 years later at Gilgo Beach. We have Valerie Mack, who is also known as Melissa Taylor. It took a long time to identify her, but part of her remains were discovered in November of 2000. They weren't identified until 2020, and then part of her remains were discovered April of 2011, also identified in 2020. Then we have like other victims, including Peaches and Baby Doe. They were basically discovered in either this location or multiple places. We have John Doe, who was a April 4th, 2011 discovery, but those remains were a male, so that threw it off. And then we have Fire Island Jane Doe, who their skull had been discovered in April 2011, which matched a set of remains from Fire Island, April 20th of 1996 was that discovery. This is a bizarre case, but the release of the 911 call, it's a huge deal. The timeline is basically April of 1996 through 2011, largely because of Shannon Gilbert calling 911. So this 911 call being released is a huge deal. There's other possible victims. There's Tina Fogel, but she's much further back. There's Andre Isaac. There's Tanya Rush. And there's several unidentified bodies in here. This is a huge deal with a lot of suspects, but I'm telling you, I think this, we could both be right in some regards, but I just get this feeling that this is some kind of sex trafficking or human trafficking operation. And I think it'll be something different than anything we've ever seen before when it's finally sort of all meted out.
It's possible. I guess just in my mind, it seems like if you're into that sort of thing, which is a terrible thing to be into, it just seems like you wouldn't want to risk drawing the attention by having bodies laying around. But it also doesn't seem like it was much of a problem, considering the only reason that Shannon Gilbert was being looked for was because she had called 911.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And in addition to that, like what makes it so interesting is she, by doing that, really ends up making it sort of bust wide open. Otherwise, we wouldn't know anything about it.
Which it makes her a hero in some ways, I guess, because all those bodies were found. I mean, that was a nightmare. Now, I remember all that happening. I didn't know anything about it, but I remember because it was in the news that they kept finding bodies.
Yeah.
And they weren't the bodies of the girl they were looking for. So, it's...
That's what made it stand out for me, too.
Because, okay, so if you're looking for somebody that's gone missing, like in this type of situation, they thought it was possible she had driven off or been driven off by her driver or whatever occurred. But it's weird. It's strange enough if somebody's looking for somebody and they find them. But it is like almost unheard of that they find all these other people in such a small area while they're looking for somebody else.
Yeah. So, I don't have a lot more of this until we get some more information about what's going on. There's been some weird, developments in the Long Island serial killer case over the years. this is probably the biggest one that I can remember. Do you remember anything bigger than this?
I don't think so. The 911 call being released is a big deal. The family had hired an attorney. There was all kinds of like back and forth trying to get it released, and it just hadn't happened. And for it to happen this much later, and it is relevant, but I don't see how I think it caused more, just sort of, it put more emphasis on it to hold it back like they did, as opposed to just releasing it whenever, they were done investigating it, right? Done investigating the call.
Yeah, I think I agree with you 100% there. I think that is unrelated to the case at large and more related to like some either incompetence or malfeasance within the police department that really has nothing to do with the case.
Well, but I do think it was, I think that they held back the 911 call in an attempt to sensationalize it a little bit. And I don't think they'd ever admit to that. But
So you think it was to draw attention to the case?
Well, it was something, because it just doesn't make sense otherwise. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, if they were going to hold it back and they continued to hold it back, that's fine, right? But if you hold something back and then sort of, I mean, I hope this isn't just the midway point, but it's not like they've announced they've got a suspect, right?
Right.
So if you hold something back and then you randomly release it, right? Which they said, the press conference, that as of right now, that Shannon is believed to have died by an accidental cause or a natural cause of some sort. It's not a homicide. However, they were very clear that if more evidence were to come up, that they won't discount it, right? This is a very serious situation with all the bodies that turned up. And so
Absolutely.
while they don't have anything to indicate it was a homicide, they're not just saying we're never going to consider anything but, accidental or natural. And so they've been very clear about that. However, to hold on to the 911 call for so long and then just randomly release it without some big news along with it, it was sensationalizing it. That's the only answer to that, because otherwise, why do that? I mean, nothing has changed. They didn't finish the entire investigation, so why now?
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you. On a lot of this stuff, I agree with you. I just have to play the devil's advocate with this, where, I mean, I even ran down scenarios with you that I was like, you know what? Shannon Gilbert could still be a natural or accidental death, but it still be related. And basically that involves her running away from these people, getting disoriented, whatever, but being tied to it because she's the only one who got away. And her 911 call is what kicks all of this off.
It is. And it's always going to be a strange thing when a young, otherwise healthy person and she's not even in the middle of nowhere. Like, she's just sort of out in a little bit of
She's on Long
marsh.
Island. Yeah, she's in the marshes of Long Island.
Okay, and so what occurred that made her, even if she needed to take a nap, like, why wasn't she able to get back up when she was done napping, right?
And I agree with you there, but I go back a step further and I say, what? Okay, so this is the person engaged in the sex trade. That's their work that they're doing to some degree for some amount of money. And like, they are accustomed to being in high risk situations to some degree, whether they've been doing it a little while or a longer while, it doesn't matter. They are aware that they're getting themselves into potential trouble. So what makes a person like that go, I got to call 911? I've got a security guy here. I can no longer trust him. So now I have to actually call 911. That's a leap.
Yeah, but I feel like it's more paranoia than anything else.
And you could totally be right on that. I just have to go with the idea of a sex ring because that makes it. So then I can understand, like, why have they not found the killer or the killers, say 1, 2, 3 killers? Why have they not found them? because they're looking for the wrong thing. And what they're actually should be looking for is these people trying to turn girls who are independent sex workers into being more in a pimp situation. And I know that's terrible to say. I don't even like saying it. It just happens they released this 911 call. I listened to it. I had some ideas and I wanted to talk to you about it. I really hope that this is one of those cases that ends up getting solved, because I think it will be something sort of odd. I don't think it'll be just like a serial killer like you and I think of serial killers. And I would like to know what it is, because I think there's something to learn from it.
I definitely don't think like 11 different killers thought that was a good place to dump their victim's body.
I totally agree with that. And okay, so that's our one big piece of true crime news. Would you agree that's a huge one?
Yeah, it is huge. But then
So-
there's something also huge.
That's what I was going to say. I don't know which one is bigger. I saved this one.
I was going to say that, like, so speaking of sensationalizing something,
This
they
is
announced
wild.
today that they were going to have a press conference on Monday.
Yeah, so we're recording this on a Friday evening in the middle of like all this other stuff we've recorded, because I wanted to release this and I felt like this would be what got us under the wire for both of these things.
And I couldn't believe they announced it like they did, like knowing we were going to have to sit and wait all weekend.
Yeah, because this is a case that came up during our Israel Keys season. And so this was like an April 2009 case. The way that this worked was, when I put together the Israel Keys stuff, I was putting together a story and I wanted to tell all this true crime stuff that was happening around it. This was highly unlikely to be related to Israel Keys. And, by highly unlikely, I mean damn near impossible. But I wanted to include it because I remember following this girl's story, and it had driven me a little crazy that she had just vanished from a place that, when I was a little kid, my family, my aunts and uncles, had a place at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and we would go down there. So to imagine this girl in 2009 going down and disappearing basically during spring break.
It was unheard of.
Yeah, it was unheard of. And not only that, this case has been sensationalized, since that's the word of the evening that we're going with here. This case was sensationalized by a story about a bunch of gang-ish members grabbing this girl and bunnying her. That's the story. That's their words, not mine. Where she had been essentially turned out to be a sex worker for a bunch of African-American males who associated, whatever you want to call it. And it comes up in multiple federal investigations that she was then used up, shot, and thrown into an alligator pit in a lagoon. And, you hear stuff like that and you just wonder, like, do they just think this case will never be solved? And that's why they tell these stories? They were definitely sensational and horrible.
Well, and I don't know how it went down, but I'm going to go ahead and say that I think whatever ends up coming out, I don't think it's going to have anything to do with all that other shenanigans.
I totally agree with you. I was just going to say, like, if we were trying to get further from like young African-American gang members, this guy is about as far as we could possibly get.
He is. And so I wondered, I was always under I never bought any of the stories that came out about this. It sounded like, I'm giving you what you want so I can get out of this room 101. Like, that makes me wonder, well, like, where is it coming from? Because, you've got situations, and this illustrates something, though. It is actually relevant because it illustrates what we've talked about several times, including during our 12 Days of Christmas and at other points during the show, that you get somebody in a room and you get them talking, and then you start saying, I imagine the investigators start saying, this guy couldn't possibly have done this. So which friends are you going to take down with you? Right. And it kind of snowballs from there, because ultimately they're just writing fiction. I mean, there's nothing relevant about any of the things that happen. Now, these guys give stories, whether, if they weren't pressured, I don't think they would have told such crazy things. So I think they were getting pressure by investigators. And so I read something a little earlier where they had looked through like 40 alligator pits.
Yeah, they spent a lot of time and money on this case.
And I'm going, well, as it turned, and it looks like her remains have been found in the woods.
Okay, so let's catch everybody up because we haven't even said her name. This is the Brittany Drexel case. She went missing at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
I think everybody knows who we're talking
Yeah,
about.
I'm sure they do, but I just want to say it because, this girl stood out a lot to me. Here's what's happened there. They arrested a gentleman named Raymond Moody as a person of interest. He was a person of interest in the Brittany Drexel case. But what's interesting about Raymond Moody is he was arrested and charged with obstruction of justice on April 25th, 2009, which is the day that Brittany Drexel disappeared. What the obstruction charge is, go ahead.
I thought that he was arrested on May 4th of this year with the incident date being that.
Correct. This is correct. Yeah, I'm sorry. If I said that wrong, I apologize. So they've arrested him as an incident date of April 25th, 2009, saying he's being charged with obstructing justice on that day. But they arrested him in the late hours of May 3rd, early hours of May 4th, 2022.
Right. And so to me, that is what they're charging him with is when he took her or when he dumped her or whenever he did whatever he did to her. They have some sort of evidence. And that's how they're able to link him to that. And that's why that charge is being made. Now, I don't know what the statute of limitations is on obstruction. I just realized that might be something that could come into relevance here. The statute.
I think it was an excuse to hold him, which is that's definitely a law enforcement tactic that we've seen time and again. If you don't know Brittany Drexel's case, you can go look it up very easily online. What we're talking about is 2022.
Right. And she was a 17-year-old girl that lived near Rochester, New York. And she went against her parents' wishes with friends all the way down from upstate New York to South Carolina to the Myrtle Beach area. And her parents didn't even know she was down there. And this story breaks my heart because she was a kid. She was out of her element. I could tell that immediately. There's a lot of sort of gathered information about the whole trip. She went with people, that were sort of her like school friends, I guess, but I don't know how much she hung out with them outside of school. And so it got a little weird whenever, things were happening. Now, at 17, if everybody's going out and doing stuff, I don't know, where do you go when you're 17? Because you can't get into bars and stuff. So I didn't know if that was part of the issue. But so she's last seen on some hotel footage where she went and she sort of met up with some of the other kids that she knew that were down there. And then one of her friends, she had borrowed some shorts or something from one of her girlfriends, and her girlfriend asked her to bring them back because she wanted to wear them. And so she headed back, and I believe she dropped the shorts off. I don't actually know if that occurred, but it happened right around that time that suddenly her cell phone was moving in a different direction really fast. And so that meant she was put in a vehicle. And in this guy's particular history, and unfortunately from what I've seen of Brittany, just sort of at a passing glance, you would think she was much, much younger than 17.
Absolutely. So what I pulled up tonight, so the way that we're trying to time this is there's a press conference that Meg was saying was driving us bonkers, which it is. If I time this correctly, she and I are going to have a couple more minutes of this conversation, and then I'm going to drop the press conference in. And right after the press conference gets, published for the world, I'm going to drop this episode of the podcast, if I'm timing everything correctly. I found the craziest thing tonight about this. So ABC News 4 down in South Carolina announcing that they were going to have a news conference. They go and they talk about the fact that, so this guy gets arrested. He has a charge that the sheriff will not give me the information on. He's not giving anybody the information on. That occurs several days after this obstruction charge, which is May 3rd or 4th, 2022. He has a May 11th charge that is either initiated on May 9th or May 11th, but they're not saying what it is yet. But we do know that the sheriff's office at Georgetown County, which is where this guy lived, has recovered apparently unidentified human remains this week. Okay, so we got Raymond Moody. He is a Georgetown County resident who has been arrested on obstruction and has a charge that nobody's talking about. Then we have unidentified human remains that appear to be related to Brittany Drexel's case, although no one is saying it yet. And now ABC News 4, like this weekend, is going to be releasing a claim from a man named Ernie Merchant, who says that he lived with Raymond Moody at the Sunset Lodge Motel in Georgetown. And that, so he's releasing a memoir called Lost and Found about his time, meaning Ernie Merchant's time in the California prison system, where he's going to say that he fell in love with Raymond Moody while Raymond Moody was his cell husband in prison. He says that Moody joined the military and ended up in California with a young wife and 3 kids. And there he ended up in prison for raping 6 girls between 8 and 17 years old. So this is all coming out this weekend. It's talking about Moody's background, this book, Lost and Found. There's
Are you
people gonna
kidding me?
No, I am not. There are going to be people crawling out of the woodwork. Now, Raymond Moody
Wait
has
a
been.
second. How did they time all this?
What do you mean time at all? It's going to be timed for this weekend's release. The book is going to be talked about. He's going to be talking on the news down there.
Okay, but he didn't just write the book.
No. It's just all going to be timed at the same time.
You don't think that that's awfully coincidental?
That's the reason I'm bringing it up here. So the whole idea, so Moody moves to Georgetown, South Carolina. He ends up having an affair with another woman and kicks Merchant to the curb. So at that point, Moody becomes interesting to me because I want to know, did he do the skit in 2005 or thereafter? So there's this woman named Kathy Hazelton who was an investigator like early on. And I haven't connected all the dots here yet, but they start interviewing Raymond Moody after Brittany Drexel goes missing. And this guy has a speeding ticket. Is it the day after or the day of? You had run it down.
It's the day after.
All right, so it's the day after Brittany Drexel's disappearance, and it puts him in the area.
But it doesn't seem like that's what the obstruction charge is for.
We don't know yet. They've definitely searched his house.
The date of the incident is the day she disappeared.
So we don't know exactly what that's going to be yet.
It's going to be that he did something with her body that obstructed justice.
Hopefully, the way that this will work is you hear me and Meg talking about it. We're recording on May 13th, and I don't usually do this, but I'm going to do dates. So on May 16th, the Georgetown County, South Carolina Sheriff's Department is going to have a press release and then a press conference, supposedly related to all of this. And hopefully the next thing that you'll hear is that press conference and you'll know more about this. And then Meg and I will talk about it in the next episode.
Do you think that it's possible that they timed this out for the book release and that he confessed?
Man, I bring it up because it is a possibility. I hope not. So here's the thing that's not possible related to that. It can't be bullshit if they found human remains.
Right. Well, here's the other thing about that. The way the timing broke down was that he was arrested on an obstruction charge, and I have a feeling they drilled her location out of him somehow.
Good for them. Good for SLED and good for the Georgetown County sheriffs and whoever else is involved. Yeah, if it's Horry County and Georgetown County, if they did that to him, good for them, because this case has driven me nuts.
Well, it's been a really messed up case, and like the worst part about all of it, I think, is just Brittany. If this is all true, Brittany Drexel proves like a huge part of like my thoughts on lots of true crime incidents wrong.
Thank you.
She actually became. The reason her parents didn't want her to go was because they were afraid she'd get taken. And it's bizarre to me that it manifested that way and it happened. Because I would have said, never in a million years would that happen. I didn't realize she wasn't going with like anybody that was really her people, because I feel like you're a whole lot safer when you're going with people that look out for you.
Yeah, they were kind of like acquaintances more than they were friends.
And I think that she sort of jumped on the trip, and it was a surprise. Like, oh, sure, you can come.
Yeah, she snuck. She snuck. Yeah, she got on the trip, and it was a surprise. She was sneaking away from her family, and I think it was really only her boyfriend, who was back home in New York, that really knew about it. And she's caused some drama in some true crime circles because people have had lots of speculation about her case that wasn't necessarily like on the up and up. They trashed her friends, they trashed her acquaintances, they trashed her family on different podcasts and stuff. And I don't know the extent of that drama. I just know that she's on my wish list of my top 5 cases to be solved.
Well, and I don't think anybody deserves to be trashed. I feel like this is just like one of those bizarro things that happen because she's going to be one of the exceptions.
Absolutely.
If this ends up being the situation, and
you mean like from the stranger perspective, right?
Correct. She's going to be an exception that because I don't think that they may have crossed paths, but I think she was walking because she didn't have a vehicle, and she was going around from like hotel to hotel to people she knew or had met, and I feel like he saw an opportunity.
Yeah.
And she was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and she was alone. And I can only imagine what she went through, because she was probably like, oh my gosh, my worst nightmare is happening, right? I feel like it'll be really good for her family to get some closure. And it seems like this guy is in a place where he's wanting to give it, maybe. Have you've seen his mugshot? Do you have any idea why his eye is closed?
I was trying to figure out if it was a beating or if he was missing that eye or it was a lazy eye, but I'm hoping I can get some answers on that shortly. I do not know right this second. I saw it though. I saw like the eye, and I immediately went, what's going on there? I even wondered if she did it to him. That would be the best case scenario, I think.
Right. Have you ever looked to see like who else has gone missing at Myrtle Beach?
Yeah, that's going to come up a little later now.
It's not a whole lot of people though,
It's
right?
only like a handful. It's like 5 people.
Yeah, I remember looking sort of briefly when I looked at her case. She would have been somebody I would have loved for Israel Keys to have been involved in, because we would have gotten a lot deeper into that case. It just didn't work, I think time-wise and geographically.
She only got a mention here on the podcast because of this April 2009 question that we had. But realistically, we were down a whole different rabbit hole there. And so what I'm thinking is we go ahead and play the. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes it. See, those are two completely different things in my head.
Well, so that's why she comes up so people have heard about her on the podcast before,
right.
But that's only because I went like, what if the prosecutors are wrong? What if it's like he took a longer trip? And I put her in there because I wanted to include her, because she's one of my wish list cases. If I had to like thumb off of 5 cases that I wanted closed, it's Brian Schaefer, Jean Benet, Maura Murray, Brittany and Deborah Feldman. Those are my cases that like I want to know the answers to. Maybe Natalie Holloway too, but those are my true crime cases that I want to know the answers to. If I could like rub a lamp and a genie appears and tells me that 5 or 6 cases can be closed, those are the ones.
And it does look like as time goes on, a lot of these cases are going to close. We've just got to give it time.
Yeah, so let's roll the press conference. And if I can do this right, I'll have you back on like right before. But let's roll the press conference so people can hear that, because this is a Monday press conference. We're recording this on Friday. And, you know, there may be some follow-up related to Raymond Moody that we do after this. Is there anything else you want to put in here?
No, I'm good. I think we covered it pretty well.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here today. My name is Carter Weaver, and I'm the Sheriff of Georgetown County. I'm joined by case agents from the Georgetown County Sheriff's Office, the Georgetown County Coroner Chase Ridgway, Myrtle Beach PD Chief Amy Prock, Horry County Sheriff Philip Thompson, Solicitor Jimmy Richardson, South Carolina Law Enforcement Division Chief Mark Keel, FBI Special Agent in Charge Susan Forensic, members of the U.S. Attorney's Office, Don and Chad Drexel, and family. The purpose of this press conference is to address recent law enforcement activity within Georgetown County as it pertains to the disappearance of Brittany Drexel. Miss Brittany was reported missing from Ocean Boulevard in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina on April the 25th, 2009, approximately 33 miles north from where we are today. Originally, a task force was created and staffed by agencies from Horry and Georgetown County to investigate the disappearance of Brittany. That was 13 years ago. And that collaboration continues today and has grown to include the 15th Judicial Solicitor's Office, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Brittany's mother, Dawn, and Chad, and Father John promised that every resource would be used to find the answer of what happened to Brittany, where did it happen, how did it happen, and why did it happen. The why may never be known or understood, but today, this task force can confidently and without hesitation answer the rest of those questions, along with the who is responsible. The who is Raymond Douglas Moody, who lives at 5502 Rose Hill Road in Georgetown, South Carolina. His date of birth is May the 9th of 1960, and he is a white male with an extensive sex offender criminal history. The Georgetown County Sheriff's Office charges against Mr. Raymond Moody are murder, kidnapping, criminal sexual conduct in the first degree. All of these charges occurring within the jurisdictional limits of Georgetown County, all of which occurred on April the 25th of 2009, and all of which detail Brittany Drexel as the victim. Charges against Raymond Moody were made possible through investigative findings and evidence that led us to a possible site where Raymond Moody buried a deceased Brittany Drexel on or about April the 26th of 2009. Human remains were discovered at that location on May the 11th of 2022. The remains were recovered by the FBI's Evidence Response Team and transferred to Georgetown County Coroner Chase Ridgway. Coroner Ridgway, along with the Charleston County Coroner's Office, positively identified through dental records the remains we found were indeed Brittany Drexel. The South Carolina Law Enforcement Division also performed DNA analysis and corroborated the coroner's findings. This has been an exhaustive case that has generated cooperation from the public and the media over the past 13 years. We all thank you for that. I am also thankful to be standing with professional law enforcement officers who are dedicated to this case and were prepared to act when opportunities to solve this case presented themselves over the past few weeks. To the Drexel family, we mourn with you and pray for you as you cope with the tragedies of 13 years ago. No one deserves to go through this, and our hearts go out to you. Our only hope is that this finding allows your family to grieve properly for Brittany. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Chief Amy Prock, here representing the men and women of the Myrtle Beach Police Department. This day is definitely bittersweet. While we are certainly grateful for being able to bring some closure to Brittany's family. Brittany's family and friends and our community, we are honored to be here today with Brittany's family. It's not the final chapter we had been hoping for. Every police officer has that one case that frequents their every waking thought. This was that case for many people in our team and several agencies throughout this circuit and throughout this state. We all stayed close with the Drexel family as we exhausted avenue after avenue in this investigation that lasted 13 years and involved many dedicated law enforcement professionals from local, state, and federal jurisdictions. On behalf of the Myrtle Beach Police Department, past and present officers, and so many more of the teammates that stand behind me and throughout this circuit and throughout the state, I extend our deepest condolences to Brittany's loved ones. We will continue to stand with you. Thank you. I'd like to introduce FBI Special Agent in charge, Susan Forensic.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're here today under such sad circumstances. For 13 years, we've been hoping for a different outcome. And in the last week, we've confirmed that Brittany lost her life in a tragic way, at the hands of a horrible criminal who was walking our streets. While the news today doesn't bring Brittany back, it does allow the family to take one step closer to getting justice for the actions that occurred to her. And throughout the investigation, all of the people you see here and all the investigators, the technical expertise, the analysts, evidence recovery teams, no one wavered over this time, and we wish that we could have come to these results sooner. As Chief Prock said, we're here for the family, not just today and through this investigation, but moving forward. And our hearts mourn with them for the loss of their child. So today, I'd like to focus on the fact that Brittany has been found and she can be with her family and at peace. And I appreciate all that the media and the public have done to get us to this point, because without input, with the media keeping the story alive, without getting the message out, we wouldn't have tips that would help investigators get through the investigation. So thank you for all you've done. And again, our hearts go out to the Drexel family. Thank you. And with that, I'd like to introduce Solicitor Jimmy Richardson.
Hey, I'm Jimmy Richardson. I'm the solicitor for Horry and Georgetown counties. There are few things in life worse than losing a child. But one of the things that I believe qualifies for that is losing a child and not being able to bury that child. That's why we have the Tomb of Unknown Soldier, there in Washington, the MIA, and We Remember flags. These past 13 years have been extremely difficult, and the Drexel family have lived this. And, you know, a lot of twists and turns along the way. Today, well, on Saturday, about 2 o'clock, I got a call from Chief Mark Hill, and Brittany's remains had been identified by SLED, and it's kind of a bittersweet call, but at least at that point, we knew that we were on the right trail. The accused, Raymond Moody, is in jail. He's charged with rape, murder, and kidnapping. And he is down there at Georgetown County Sheriff's Office. In the coming months, we will move to seeking justice for Brittany, and we'll be talking about arraignments and indictments and hearings. But today, I think it's a good day to somberly be reminded of Brittany and all that she and her family have had to go through. Now, in those 13 years, you've heard it several times, but South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, Georgetown County Sheriff's Office with Carter Weaver, Philip Thompson and Horry County Sheriff's Department, Amy Prock with the Myrtle Beach Police, the U.S. Attorney's Office, and especially the FBI. Those guys have worked tirelessly to get to where we are today. And I'm telling you that to say that I actually saw Amy Prock down helping with the excavation. These guys have been nothing but professional. They've never tired. They've never wavered. They never quit working, and they never gave up. So all of that stuff sort of come together, that perseverance and hard work. And again, in the days and weeks to come, we'll certainly turn to justice. And obviously, justice is never going to be good enough. That's the fallacy in all of this, that somehow we're going to do our very best to see that Raymond Moody pays for what he's done here. But that is not going to replace Brittany. But what we have been able to do is to return a body to Chad and Dawn, and hopefully start the process of closure. And again, closure is not nearly as good as justice, and justice isn't nearly as good as just having it not happen. But that's all we have to offer. So again, to repeat, Raymond Moody is in custody, is being held. He does not have a bond. That original bond was on an obstruction of justice charge. That's another charge that I failed to mention, but he remains in custody. The body has been located and identified by DNA and dental records, and has been given over to the Drexel family, who I want to introduce to you now. This is Chad and Dawn Drexel.
Hi, everyone. I want to take this opportunity to thank the FBI, all the law enforcement agencies that worked on her case, the solicitor's office, and all the investigators who never gave up on the search for Brittany, and the individuals responsible for from taking her from us. I want to thank those of you in the media that kept Brittany's story current and didn't forget about her or our family. I want to thank the many volunteers that helped search for Brittany and answers with us. You have all inspired me and the investigators to keep going. I am comforted by everyone who has been a part of our lives and those we have met along the way. This is truly a mother's worst nightmare. I am mourning my beautiful daughter, Brittany, as I have been for 13 years. But today, it's bittersweet. We are much closer to the closure and the peace that we have been desperately hoping for. I am slowly processing everything that has come to light. I have not hidden from commenting or discussing Brittany's case publicly. We do not plan on speaking or answering any questions today. I do ask that you respect our family's privacy and allow us to grieve during this time. We do intend to speak at some point. Today marks the beginning of a new chapter. The search for Brittany is now a pursuit of Brittany's justice. Also, I did want to make everyone aware that we will be holding a celebration of life in Rochester and also in Myrtle Beach. We will be giving dates at a later time.
And thank you all. Thank you for everything you've done. I know I break up, but it is bittersweet, and we have a little more closure than what we wanted. Weighing this all out is tough on a dad, tough on a mother, but having faith and hope is what's going to guide us through the end result, because they still have the work to do, and we have full. I cooperate. I mean, the support that I can give them is not even near what I want to give them. So, thank you guys. Thank you very much.
Yes, law enforcement, the FBI, they did an amazing job on Brittany's case. It may have took them quite a long time, but we are glad that we're able to bring Brittany home.
Last thing I'm going to add is there's several different law enforcement, several different divisions, several different types. And being prior military, you're working Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines together as one to find one person. That's basically what they did. And that's incredible. So guys.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you.
Good.
Thank you all very much. Jason.
Hey, Sheriff, I'm on the Crystal Falls case. You coming on Crystal Falls? What does this mean for Timothy? How do you know that Raymond did it? Did he confess? What was the evidence? Are there co-conspirators? Why are you not taking questions? This is supposed to be a press conference. Converse.
Are we going to find out if there were any elected?
When might more information before coming, sir?
How did you know this? How do you know Raymond did it?
Pardon? No, we need to know if there's any more questions we can.
Why do you refuse to take questions?
Sheriff, can you answer the how, please,
for us? Just the how.
Sheriff,
What about Crystal Souls? Can you say anything about him?
All right. All right. Did you have any questions, voting, sir? Thank you.
We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Jason, can you talk to us about what's going on as far as questions?
I'll tell you what I'm going to be doing when I leave here. My name is Jason Leslie, Public Information Officer for the Sheriff's Office. I will be sending the warrants that were served on Mr. Moody today. It will have more detail about, probably answer some of your questions about the discovery in the case and the allegations.
When you say sending, could you explain that?
I'm going to scan them and email them to all my media list.
It wasn't going to be her, huh?
Yeah, I was hoping it was going to be somebody else. I knew once those dates were linked in there. What's today, the 16th? I started getting, been a week now since I started getting information on this. And, that case is always, like, that area of South Carolina has always been of interest to me. There's been a number of cases I've covered down there. This one, I don't even know what it was about her. I don't know why I was so interested in it. I think it was because I had done stupid shit like that too to my parents, where I would disappear or whatever and just be with my friends. And I could totally see there were people I knew that things like that had happened to. And I knew she was gone. I knew it. I think I knew in my heart of hearts that it wasn't like the bullshit story we get about her being trafficked by gang members or whatever that
That
was.
was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I would really like to know how they managed to get that out of them. Because
Yeah.
not a single bit of it was true.
I mean, at least not for Brittany Drexel, no. And she had sort of a unique look about her, so I have a feeling that, yeah, it has to all be BS. This guy is the rarest of the rare.
Well, it's not that he's the rarest of the rare. It's the fact that her case is the rarest of the rare.
Yeah, and that's a stranger abduction.
It was a stranger abduction, and I'm interested. Now, I heard at the end of the press conference they are going to unseal or release the warrants, right?
Yeah, I was kind of I was debating if I was going to put this off a little bit longer or not, and I may bring you back on one more time before I publish. But
Well,
yeah,
I had my I was listening to sort of as it was wrapping up, and I don't know that I heard everything correctly, and I was moving around, but it sounded like the press got a little bit irate.
They went nuts. Could you hear it on the mics?
Well, what I thought I heard them say was that, like, when you have a press conference, you're supposed to have a conversation, you're supposed to have interaction or something. I can't remember the exact words, but I was like, I'm not the only one who thinks that.
Well, okay, so
it should be. They should say that they are going to make a statement. When they call a press conference,
the live streams didn't pick up all of it. I don't know where yours picked up at, but so they came out and said that this would be a statement and that this was a release of something information, and then they went into this. I agree with it. People went nuts.
It's semantics because I think when they're going to get up, they want all the reporters to come and they want to get up and talk, the officials. They say, we're going to have a press conference. And that's not what's really happening there. What's really happening is they're giving a statement to the press. A conference implies that there's going to be back and forth.
This was a news release as opposed to a press conference. This is a press statement.
And I think that that's where a lot, because I have a feeling if they said, we're just going to give a statement and we will be taking no questions. Well, then, like, who's going to show up? Because you could literally watch it online. You don't have the ability to ask questions, right? So why go? Right. And so I do think that it sort of gets lost in translation. I've seen it happen, which, I mean, it's good because it means cases are closing and there's like this news release about it. But I've seen recently where there's been sort of a big uproar at the end of these things when the press sits through it and then they take no questions because they're under the impression that they're there to conference about something.
Well, yeah, and man, I'll tell you what, I've got questions. This is, I will say this, even the last few days, this has been a very emotionally charged issue. I think they spelled it out in the early part of the conference that the formal identification, a tentative identification was made late Friday, and a formal identification was expedited and made on Saturday. And then, so her parents were here in the Carolinas instead of up in New York while the press conference was going on. They actually speak in the press conference, which played right before this. So I am so curious to see what's on these warrants. I can't even explain to you how curious I am.
What do you think happened?
So he grabbed her.
I meant more about the arrest. Like, do you think that they took him into custody, like, with a Hail Mary and he just confessed?
I think there's more to it than that.
Yeah, probably.
This is my suspicion based on the no questions and how this is all going down. I think that the speeding ticket. So the way this goes down is she disappears on the 25th of April. He gets a speeding ticket in Surf City on the 26th of April, and I believe that's going to be what's in the paperwork. I think he was in their sex offender roundup. Now, he's been searched. There have been multiple warrants on this guy over the years, not just when she disappeared, like twice after that. They have gone after this guy. My thinking is, and I don't want to say super cop because I don't want to be rude to whoever was the one who broke this, is whatever tenacious person found that speeding ticket was, whether it's that person found it or like someone brought it to them. This is the image that pops into my head. Her being in the car when he gets pulled over. And I'm not saying
I can't bring myself to go there, I'm afraid.
Yeah, no, I knew that. And that's probably one of the reasons, that and all the emotions surrounding this are some of the reasons that this is not, there's not a conference or questions being answered here. And there will be, I'm sure, in the coming days, but there must be something weird about it, because what I read is emotionally charged as this is, the reason this statement is, sort of Joe Friday, facts, just the facts, is
it was a very quick press conference.
Yeah, it's not very long. I think it's going to be a matter of they're worried about the prosecution of it. And now this guy's being held with no bond. He had $100,000 bond before with all these conditions on it. And I was curious, like, how that was going to go, because that was an obstruction charge that you kept pointing out to me was the date that she disappeared.
Right.
This is such a weird case. Like, I really am having trouble wrapping my head around this.
Well, I don't feel like there's going to be a problem with the prosecution, because whatever occurred, I don't know what it was, but you've got a series of events happening in, May of 22, which is 13 years, like, after she went missing, right? And you've got a guy being charged with an obstruction charge, with the incident date being the date of the incident. The obstruction occurred as the day she disappeared. And then in, let's see, I think he was arrested on like May 4th. And within, 10 days maybe, they've got a location that they're finding remains. And so I feel pretty confident that he gave them that location for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I believe that would be.
That's what makes sense to me. Now, how did they in all honesty, at this point in time, 13 years later, somebody sees that, I assume that Surf City is pretty close to where she went missing.
Yeah, so Surf City is basically Myrtle Beach. It's just a part of Myrtle Beach. So the way that they're sort of spelling this out right now, and so I've seen pieces of the paperwork, but I haven't seen the actual warrants yet. They're saying that this 8-mile distance between where she disappeared, it might be a little more than that, but where she disappeared and where he gets his ticket is problematic. But they also said they had evidence based on her cell phone that she was held for periods of time in 3 different locations. This is new information.
Or at least her cell phone was.
Her cell phone was in 3 different locations, but the FBI flat out said that they considered whatever they've got out of that to be evidence that she was held against her will. I don't know I don't know what that means, but what I'm saying about it being a problematic prosecution is this. So the FBI and elements of other law enforcement fully backed that crazy trafficked, shot, and fed to the alligators story. at different times in other court cases. They have told that story in court documents like it was fact. That's law enforcement and other prosecutors. So now they're going to be dealing with this situation where, so anytime that you accuse one defendant and then go along and accuse another defendant, and in that case, it wasn't for the trial about Brittany Drexel. It was other crimes that they were dealing with there, where they were cutting pleas and basing pressure on prosecution witnesses on this story.
Did you ever believe any of that? I never did. I thought it was garbage to the point that I can't even, I didn't even entertain it.
You could go back through. I'm sure I talk about it in the previous years of the
It
stuff
was
that
the
you and I have done.
craziest thing.
But so here's how I treated that. Like, I treated that story, whether I talk about giving it, actual veracity or weight or not, the way I treated that story was sometimes the craziest thing could potentially be the reason that you can't solve a thing. And I had looked at her case and I'd gone, well, maybe that could be why it's like so hard. Maybe alligators eating the body is why it's so hard to solve it. But that, it doesn't seem to be the case now. We're 13 years out from this crime. And that is not the longest that I've heard of cases taking to be solved like this. I think
though it's going to be that they did a Hail Mary, that they said, we've got a sex offender getting a ticket.
Yeah.
And let's just see what we can do with this. And giving the fact that they found her body, it played out.
Yeah. It does look like it played out. So all I can say about all this for now is I hope that the Drexel family gets a little closure out of this and some justice. And rest in peace, Brittany Drexel. Thank you for joining us. We are sponsored by LabRottiCreations.com. You can check them out at LabRottiCreations.com, and you can still use the code CRIMEXS for a fun pop pet portrait of your own pet. You can also reach us on Twitter, Instagram at TrueCrimeXS, or you can give us a call if you know anything about any of the cases that we're talking about at 252-365-5593. You can also reach us at Gmail at truecrimexs@gmail.com, and you can check out our website at www.truecrimexs.com. We'll see you next time.
This is True Crime XS.
All of these beautiful things through the blue. You're giving me eyes to see all of these beautiful things through the blue and gray. We're in a golden age. Ooh.